What's up, y'all? It's your girl Amanda, and we are back with another episode of Mandy's Entertainment Reviews. So, for this episode, we are recording and reviewing the Fall of Diddy. Now, this documentary was released on HBO Max, but if you do have regular cable, it was on the ID channel. It was released in January of 2025. Now, this documentary, I did like better than the one on the Peacock uh streaming service. So on the Peacock, it was like one episode, probably a hour and 30 minutes, whereas with this one, it was broken down into four episodes. Now, that gave me the opportunity, if I wanted to watch an episode, take a break, probably a day or so, and I could, choose another day to finish the next episode and the next episode and the next episode. Whereas with Peacock, if things got a little too heavy for me, I would have to pause it and I would still be in the one episode documentary. So that was good. There were more people involved. We saw D Woods, we saw his chef, we saw his assistant having an opportunity to sit and share their side of what happened during their time working with Diddy and Combs Enterprises and Bad Boy and all that stuff. So, KWL, if you don't know what that means, is know, want to know, and learn. You should have learned this back in like first, second, or third grade. And I always start with no because obviously with Diddy, I know a lot because I grew up watching Diddy. He was always on TV on BET and stuff. So Diddy founded Bad Boy Records, which was a popular record label for R&B and hip hop from the 90s till probably the 2020s, because the last known artist signed to Bad Boy Records, in my opinion, was French Montana, and we see how far he's come along in the music world. He's also signed other artists like 112, Biggie, Faith Evans, Total, Carl Thomas, Day 26, Danny D. Kane, Donnie Klang, and the list goes on and on. He also founded Revolt, and Revolt, when it first came out, I applaud Diddy for just this only in sense that he really did make a big campaign about it. He explained what it was about. It was for the hip hop culture. He had shows hosted by Joe Budden on there and all that good stuff. But now that it's basically gone to shit. Towards Diddy's end of Revolt, it just went to shit, and then he gave it over to the employees and stuff. It's just shit. I remember back in the day that the Breakfast Club used to be streamed on there with Charlamagne the God, DJ Envy, and Just Hilarious. But then I don't know what happened there, because now if you watch like Tubi, the Breakfast Club, they stream their episodes on there now. So for example, today is a holiday. Today's President's Day. I'm sure they wouldn't have a show, but if they were to have a show, they would have their normal radio show, and then today's show would be aired on tomorrow's new episode of Tubi. So I guess it was something with Diddy as well that they had to remove their shows from Revolt and went to Tubi. And Tubi is growing as a whole platform anyway, so I guess it's better for them anyway. Uh, Another thing is that Diddy is a wealthy black man. Do I need to go into detail about that? His suits, his houses, his cars, him, paying for stuff and all that good stuff do I need to go into how wealthy he is? His kids are okay. I see what kind of cars they drive. The Combs twins, they're in private school and they drive Land Rovers, and just do I need to go into detail about his money? Because that's honestly like pocket watching to me. Let's see. He was in a long-term relationship with Cassie and Kim Porter. So Kim Porter's relationship with Diddy was first. It started in like the early 90s, went on until like the mid 2000s, like 2007-ish, when the Combs twins were born. And then after Kim Porter, he was with Cassie from like 2008 to like the early 2020s. And then he has seven children. He had some with Misa Hilton. Well, no, he had one. Justin, that's their one. And then he had two by Kim Porter. Yeah, two by Kim Porter, because Quincy Combs is adopted. He had one with Sarah Chapman, then the Combs twins, and then he had little baby Love. So those are his children. He is currently in jail for sex trafficking crimes. He's been in there since September of 2024. He, I remember the day he was arrested from his hotel in New York, like they had him in handcuffs, they had his face covered and all that stuff. Uh, I think he thought he was going to be in there for probably like a couple hours, bail out, but nope, he's still in there. I don't think he, like Wendy Williams said, Diddy done. Like, because it's more and more and more and more and more evidence coming out every day that makes him look worse in the eyes of the judge. So, obviously, he is from New York, and his father, Melvin Combs, is a associate of Nikki Barnes. So, if you guys don't know who Nikki Barnes is like this big time drug dealer. Um, I think a movie American Gangster is based off of him. I could be wrong, but it's based off some New York gangster, and I heard it was Nikki Barnes that it was based off of. He hosted iconic white parties back in the day. It was mandatory. You had to have on all white to get in. A lot of celebrities used to go, like Aretha Franklin, and I'm like, why is Aretha Franklin at your white party? Aretha Franklin is like Motown, like 1960s, 1970s royalty. Like I would not imagine someone like her at those type of parties. But she was there with her camcorder, so hey, I guess she had a good time. And also, the abuse to Cassie was recently exposed. And I also wanted to add this on. I do remember a story on TMZ that Cassie and Diddy did get into a fight in the back of a car. So I think that that fight was actually covered in the documentary. It was just like, I remember it so vividly. I remember reading the story on TMZ, and then it kind of went away, and I guess it was brought back around with the with everything coming out about Diddy. And speaking of Cassie, she did sue Diddy, and Diddy did settle with her for after like 12 to 24 hours. And at first I thought, oh, okay, so she settled with him. It's gonna be the end of it. We gonna move on. Nope. That was kind of the can opener of everything, and everything went downhill for Diddy after that, including his homes being raided. He had a house in LA, the one people always see on social media. I hear that it was right next door to like Kai Cenat's mansion that he rented, so somewhere in like Beverly Hills or whatever. And then he had his Miami house raided, the house where he was when he had that half-ass apology about the video with Cassie. And I always wonder why they didn't raid his New York house. Because why was he staying in a hotel if he had a New York apartment? I always wondered that too. But yeah. So we're gonna move on to the next section of Want to Know. I wanted to know why everything was exposed all these years later in volume of him being in the press like every day. I wanted to know the real story behind all the artists getting their publishings. I heard Mark Curry, he was a rapper for Bad Boy. He said those publishings were worth nothing but hundreds of dollars. You would think how popular those songs were back in the day and how they were played in commercials and all that stuff. Those songs would be making thousands or millions of dollars. Nope. According to Mark Curry, it was worth hundreds. Why did artists' lives turn out for the worse after Bad Boy? And lastly, for Danity Kane, why haven't Shannon or Andrea come out and said anything, a statement, a tweet, an Instagram post, something? So I'm going to go into what I learned and all this I say on this podcast. Some of them may or may not answer the questions of what I want to know, which is okay. I just learn it anyway, and I have the information. So the first note I have is that people worked for him were afraid of him, and they had no idea about the abuse going on behind closed doors. But honestly, it's in the realm of, I work for this person. I'm not invested in their personal lives. I do my work and I go home. I think that was on the accord that some of them lived with. But being afraid of him, I also understood because if you guys remember that clip that surfaces everywhere now of Diddy in his office at Bad Boy, he has on a Von Dutch t-shirt and he hangs up the phone and he yells, "I'm a savage! I'm a savage!" That's when the people know he was crazy. Like, oh, this guy is has lost his marbles. Holy shit, you know? So I mean, I would understand that. Danielle Smith from Vibe, I also wrote a note that he threatened her for not showing him the cover of the Vibe magazine cover he was doing before publication. My thing is, I don't know how publishing or photo shoots are done in 2020, or I'm sorry, in the 90s. I don't know if they had like the little screen or a little computer that showed everything or show him the little screen on the camera. That's all they had to do. He didn't have to call that lady and threaten her. It just didn't make sense to me. He never heard his father's voice. So Melvin Combs died when Diddy was fairly young, like maybe 2, 3 years old. When you're 2 or 3 years old, you really don't remember anything. Sometimes you can't remember a sound of someone's voice, which I completely understand. So I do feel bad for him. There was another part of the documentary where Puff harassed DeWitt Gilmore. He was a promoter for Death Row, and Diddy kind of like taunted him about it. This was during like East Coast West Coast beef, which kind of makes sense because they would overly hype things and they overly hyped it so much that we ended up we ended up losing two of the best hip hop artists of that generation. So it was basically Diddy just egging on to what the media was saying. And he also got into a dispute with Misa Hilton's parents, which I've never heard of a baby daddy fighting their baby mama's parents. Never heard of that. They were it just was disgusting. Like you don't fight someone who's I'm sure Misa's parents are not that old, but they are older in that sense they are like an elder. You know what I mean? So there was no way or no reason for him to fight his elders. Someone also said in the documentary that Diddy changes his name a lot to get away from who he was. That doesn't work for me because you can change your name all you want. You're still that same person. You still did what you did. You still know what you know. And those people still have the trauma that they have. And it don't matter if you change your name on paper or for entertainment purposes. You did what you did. That doesn't make sense to me. Puff sent Aubrey O'Day inappropriate pictures. So if you guys don't remember, Aubrey O'Day was on the podcast of Bunny XO, who is the wife of Jelly Roll, and she was saying that Puff did a lot of inappropriate things, but she really wouldn't go into detail about it. But with this documentary, it did go into detail. So Puff sent her inappropriate pictures, and also Puff tried to have sex with her, and I know she just was not going for that. So that was also exposed. Another thing that shocked me was that other liquor was not allowed in the workplace, only De Leon, which makes no sense to me. Well, it kind of does, but like the consequences were unnecessary that he would flip out. If you wanted to bring another liquor into the workplace, just take the label off so he wouldn't like go crazy. He wouldn't know. Put it in another container. I'm sure if they did that, he would not know and would not have gone crazy. Puff's personal chef, she kept diary entries and records of what he was doing to her, and nobody should have to document the weird things that happen at work, but I understand that's how you cover your trail. There's just the stress of her probably having to keep up with the diary entries and all the things he did. And every day it felt like she must have been writing down every day. Every day she get home from work, probably. This is what he did. This is what he said. This is what, you know what I mean? The stress of it all. And when she quit, he assaulted her, which was just awful. Just let her go. You didn't have to put hands on her. And then I think this was the last episode where we meet Lil Rod outside of the media. I've heard of Lil Rod's name in lawsuits and stuff, but I couldn't put a name to the face. He was a producer on the Love album. So if you guys don't know what the Love album is, it's basically Diddy's last album where he did all that R&B with Gotta Move On and all that stuff. And he was a producer on there, and he was never paid. Now, obviously now he's not getting paid because Diddy is in jail and he probably don't have access to his, his accountants and all that stuff. So he was never paid for it. And when Diddy was out of jail, I never really heard, well, outside of the publishing, like other people, I've never heard of producers and stuff not getting paid. So that was kind of messed up. And then Diddy had like a chief of staff who would downplay the sexual harassment of Lil Rod. And last time I checked, she was a woman, which is a shame that she didn't do anything about it because women's cases in sexual harassment are bigger than men's. So I just didn't understand that. And if you guys remember the tribute they did at the BET Awards, probably back in like 2015, 2016, where no, that wasn't 2015, 2016, it was probably in the 2020s, that he thanked Cassie. And when I was watching that for the first time, I'm thinking, oh, they might have broken up, but they're still friends. Wrong. And I feel bad for thinking like that. And basically, Diddy was taunting Cassie, even though she's long gone, broke up with him, had a baby, and married her longtime boyfriend, Alex Fine. That was just so messed up. And another thing that was messed up regarding Diddy and Cassie is that Cassie's medical records was always sent to him. And it should always be this way. It doesn't matter if you're married or not, and this is my opinion, that your medical records should go to you directly, and you should have a right to tell who you want to tell about what's going on, if there is something going on. There is no way that your medical records should be sent to your spouse. And I don't know if it was with permission or it was just a command or whatever. It's just either or. Medical records should stay with oneself. That's just my opinion. And then after Diddy and Cassie broke up, there was another lady. There was probably two more girlfriends because obviously it's the mother to his youngest child. And then there was this other young lady named Kat Paisan. And basically what Diddy did to Kat was basically he love bombed her, and he wasn't who he was to the other women to her. And so like they got a year in, and I guess he started really being who he was to her. And my last note was that he basically told Kat that we all have a little R. Kelly in us, which is sick. And we all know what R. Kelly did. You know what I mean? So, and no, not in all of us. No, just you, Diddy. Just you and R. Kelly. That's who has those curses. So, yeah, that's disgusting to say to somebody. So those are my notes. So I understand that there was an episode 5, but it just basically gave like the assistant a platform for him to tell his story. The only thing that I made in my notes was that it was just an interview. We didn't see any other interviews from anyone else. And he was told to get wild things like sex toys, lube, and baby oil. And that's when all the baby oil jokes and stuff come in. So I didn't make a lot of notes for that. It was a quick interview, probably like in 15 to 30 minutes, so not enough time to um, even get some notes out of that. So I do give this documentary a 4 out of 5. We did see everyone, new faces, D Woods, we saw Kat and all those people, so they did have an opportunity to speak, as well as the chef. She did share her diary entries about Puff, and also the final assistant had his opportunity to speak. So that is the review for the Fall of Diddy. Do I recommend anyone to watch this? If you have a sensitive stomach, or if you want to protect your ears and you don't want to hear all the nasty stuff, no, you shouldn't watch it. But if you're into the documentaries situation like I am, and if you just want to see what they're talking about, then I do recommend. So thank y'all again for listening. If you are listening on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. If you're listening to your favorite on your favorite podcast platform, I am releasing new episodes soon. and just keep an eye out. But I thank y'all again for listening and see you next episode. Peace.